Nate G 219 to Hell But Back and Better. Y'all know what it is. Another one coming at y'all. First, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that channel if y'all want to help out. Today is December 27th, about 4:45 in the morning, and it's about 45 degrees out. It's going to be a beautiful day. I mean, a little rainy later on, but temperature-wise, not too bad to work outdoors in. But you know that's the irrelevance today. That's the irrelevance. But I'm going to be bringing another reaction from Vlad TV on Pinocchio, a.k.a. Michael Thompson, the lying Aryan. Let's get in it.
All right, here we go. Today we have Michael Lynn Thompson, former high-ranking member of the Aryan Brotherhood, who ended up leaving the gang and cooperating with authorities against other Aryan Brotherhood members. Welcome to Vlad TV.
Thank you, Vlad. It's good to be here.
So you were born in 1951. Where exactly did you grow up?
Well, I grew up, there's a reservation on the east side of the High Sierra Mountains called Big Pine. It sits between Bishop and Lone Pine. And I spent approximately the first 12 years of my life on the reservation there.
Okay, and your parents are partly Native American?
Well, that I don't know. It's a great question. When I left the reservation at the age of 12, I went to live with Nez Perce elder. He was half Nez Perce, half Irish.
I don't know whether that's true or false. I don't know if anybody without Native American blood can live on a reservation. There's a possibility. I can't call cap on that. But I don't know. I don't know if y'all can let me know. Let me know if a Caucasian or anybody else that's not a Native American can live on a reservation. Just let me know.
And he's actually the one that taught me my ways. Whether or not I have any Native American blood myself, I don't know. I was raised Native. That's what's in my heart, so that's what I follow.
Okay. And at that point, when you talk about up to 12 years old...
correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't natives raised to be very peaceful and all that, very, very peaceful oriented people? I don't know. I've only met a few Native Americans, and 3 of them were in prison. I think I've met 5 or 6 my entire life, actual real Native Americans. I'm not saying just with a little bit of blood. I'm talking about get a check every month Native American. He's clearly not that. But I don't know. They're raised to be peaceful and, pray to life, basically. So that's where I find it hard to believe. If he was raised Native and he believed the Native way, that he turned into what he turned into.
You lived on a reservation, then you moved. Was there any sort of racism early on that you were exposed to, or did you feel a certain type of way against other races, or not really?
No, quite the contrary. If there was racism, it was directed toward me by other natives because of my fair features. And I suppose, my elder used to tell me all the time
That being said, I do believe. And that's what makes it hard to believe for me that a non-Native American born and raised on a reservation had it good at all. I just don't see how that could have been a good thing.
Tree wears many feathers, and I think that's pretty much true. So no, the only association I had with racism growing up was from other natives.
Okay, so 12 years old, you moved away from the reservation, And at one point, you actually became a bull rider.
I did. I rode the rodeo circuit for a few years, traveled the circuit itself, and enjoyed that immensely.
So then in 1973,
I can see him being a rodeo clown. Maybe a rider, but I could see him being a rodeo clown for sure.
a very serious incident occurred. Let's talk about that.
Okay. Yeah, that was the murder of Butch Nunley and Ruth Steele. They were alleged to be two drug dealers that were working in conjunction with a man who ran a cartel at that time, John Solis. And it appears that they had gotten themselves in debt or in some kind of trouble, so they took it upon themselves to attempt to kidnap the daughters of John Solis. And I let John know that that was about to occur, and as a result, they were killed. And I was convicted of the murders, in addition to conspiracy.
Okay, and you were convicted of a double homicide.
Yes.
Okay, and you were the only one actually convicted on all counts.
That's true.
So you didn't actually do the murder yourself.
No.
So who actually did the murder?
That was Mike Sesma. He was the right-hand man for John Solis, and he carried out the execution of both men.
Okay, so explain to me, with you not actually doing the...
Regardless of what he's about to say, which I don't know, if you don't pull the trigger and you're there, it usually falls under a felony murder clause. If you're in the commission of any felony and the death of another occurs, you're held responsible, just as responsible as the man that did pull the trigger. And usually it's because it's a plan, it's a group plan, a group effort to commit whatever offense was supposed to be committed, but the end result was two men losing their lives, and he was convicted of a double homicide. And as you hear, he's saying the other man did it, gave government name, all that. Let's continue.
Murder, and you, I guess, trying to warn someone of an impending kidnapping. How exactly did you get convicted of a double murder without actually pulling the trigger yourself?
Well, it's under the felony murder rule, which has just been changed this last year through the legislation. And under the felony murder rule, if you're involved in a felony, regardless of the degree of the felony, in my case, Sesna had suggested that I had assaulted one of the victims. That assault was the predicate for first-degree murder and the conspiracy. That is now actually before the appellate.
I highly doubt he just stood back and watched everything play out. I'm sure he assaulted. I'm sure he's like, yeah, go ahead, pull that trigger. I'm sure he was pushing it on, egging it on. There's just no way. Because if he was completely innocent and hadn't done anything, he'd have been testifying against everybody and getting himself out of prison. Because he did do that anyway.
The court looks like this may be heading towards exoneration. I maintained my innocence from the very beginning and throughout the course of my 45 years in prison. So, but now it looks like it's going to bear some fruit my way.
Okay, and you're about 23 years old at the time?
22.
22. You're 22 years old, barely in your 20s, and you just got convicted of double homicide.
Yes.
And how many years did they give you at that point?
It was 7 years to life.
7 years to life. Now, 7 years doesn't seem...
That's a huge gap. And what that means is you must serve at least 7 years until the parole board hears you. Now, a lot of states are different. Indiana, you don't go to the parole board like that. Like they don't give you 10 to 20 and you see parole after 10 and the parole decides whether you're worthy of hitting the streets again. It's just an automatic. You get parole when you're out, and it depends how long you get paroled depending on your crime. But usually 2 years is how long you get for parole in the state of Indiana. I had 1 year, but that's because I only had a 2-year sentence, and I served 1 year of it. You only had to serve 50%. That left 1 year to serve on parole. So, other states are similar to ours. Others are similar to California. Just depends where you are.
So bad, but when you added 2 life to it, it potentially could turn into a life sentence. And oftentimes you have these extremely long sentences that start out with a 7 years to life.
They do. What it essentially means, lad, is that in 7 years you're eligible for parole. So I was eligible for parole after 7 years, but I went before the board 18 times. 19th time they released me, and that was after 45 years.
Okay, I mean, how did it feel to be a 22-year-old who just heard 2 life?
Yeah, I'm asked that question a lot. Particularly people are interested in the emotion associated with that. The truth of the matter is that you're so caught up in attempting to survive and adapt to the environment in which you've been placed that you don't.
So, I can't agree with that. I was sentenced to 10 years. 4 of it was suspended, so that meant 6 years in the Department of Corrections. When you hear a sentence of 6 years, 10 years, I don't care what it is, your heart's going to sink. Even if you signed a plea agreement, it's not real until that gavel hits. It does not seem real until that gavel hits. And then it just starts sinking in, regardless of where you're at or who you're surrounded by. And when you're fighting your case, you're not fighting your case from prison normally. You're fighting your case from a county jail, which I'm not saying is a safe place, but you're fighting it from a county jail, which is nothing compared to prison, especially San Quentin, Folsom. The places this man's gone, that county jail was a cakewalk compared to those prisons. I promise that.
I have a lot of time to reflect on the fact that you're now serving a life sentence for a double homicide, regardless of the fact that you maintain, as I did, that you're innocent. You have to contend with what you're faced with.
Well, but I think you did say that around that time you started to consider suicide?
Well, one time, yeah. It's a situation where I'd never been arrested. I'd never been in a cage before. I'd been out running the mountains, working on Arabian horse ranch, riding the rodeo circuit. So when I was arrested, it was one thing to be put into a cage and go through the trial. There was some movement associated with that, but I think the thing that settled with me most when I was transferred over to the prison and put into a cell was that I couldn't do this. The very idea of spending the rest.
Now, unfortunately, taking your own life is a very common thing, especially when there is a lot of time over your head. When you're looking at never going home again, and even at the age of 22, 45 years, I mean, that man's getting close to 80, I mean, and as you know, he's still committing felonies and catching cases, going back to prison. So now he is likely going to die in prison with his age. Maybe not, but he's going to be older than 80 by the time he hits that pavement again. If he hits that pavement again. It wouldn't surprise me if all this comes back and gets him. He testified on people to get out of prison. He says he left because the family was going to be killed. And at the end, it ended up resulting in the loss of a life of one of the members' fathers or former members' fathers. This man could have prevented it. I'm going to show you a snippet at the end of this from another YouTuber, Smiley, who had done a lot of time in California prisons, and he tells the truth about this chump here.
My life in a cage, and not a very big cage at that. But that's actually the reason I wear this rock around my neck. There's a very similar rock, just like it, up in the corner of the cell. And having been raised native, the rock people are significant to me by way of totem. And so with this rock sticking out, I just simply went up and put my hand on it. And in the spiritual sense, it spoke to me. And it just said, "It's going to be all right, little one." And that was enough for me.
So yeah, that's how, that's just another story from Michael Thompson, guys. Just some more BS from him. He did this, he did that. I don't believe for 1 minute that he wasn't much more deeply involved in that double homicide than he claims he was. Also, guys, overnight, I hit 800 subscribers. Thank you very much, guys. It means so much to me. 800. I can't believe it. 800 people watching little old me. Just baffling. But at the end of this video, stick around. There's going to be a snippet that's another 3-minute video. I'm not doing any reaction or anything. It's just of another former Aryan, solid man, Smiley, talking. He mentions Michael Thompson and how he feels about this chump. But never forget life's choices, guys. Don't do that, because you never know where they are going to lead. Any wrong turn can lead directly to prison. Keep that in mind when you're out there doing what you do. But hey, hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that channel if you want to help out. And always remember, if they ain't hating it, you ain't making it. Peace.
Because he didn't program his way out of prison. He just ratted his way out of prison. Gotcha. Just like that fucking Mike Thompson, the guys that rat their way out of prison, they don't fucking learn,
Well, someone wrote in here, IH Farmer wanted to know, will you ask Mitch about Michael Thompson and what he thinks of him?
He's a piece of shit, In a short story, he's a piece of shit. He signed up for the ride and he didn't ride it out. And not only that, he was a predator. He was preying on his own race, preying on white dudes. And then, when he found out, rest in peace, Blinky had him in the hat, was going to stab him. He ratted. He comes up with this big fucking story about, some guy dropped out, so they wanted to kill the guy's dad. And that's why he dropped out. He dropped out because he was in the hat and they were going to kill him. If he wanted to drop out because they were going to kill that guy's dad, why didn't he drop out before they killed that guy's dad? If he felt so bad about it, he could have saved that guy's dad's life. But he waited until he found out he was in the hat. And then he got his revenge by testifying against Blinky and some other guys. He's a piece of shit, dude.
Right.
Everything that guy says is fucking bullshit. But don't mistake that. The guy was dangerous, Dude, he's a big dude and he's violent and he's a moron. But, he's a violent motherfucker at one time. And, he probably still would be about stab you in the back kind of violence,
Right.
Yeah,
So-
and but I mean that just goes all out the window though. Once they cooperate though, that he's not standing for what he's supposed to be standing
The
for. Like
bottom
you
line
said,
is not
you
just a
signed up
fucking-
for it.
He ratted his way out of he fabricated stories against people. Like he testified against some guys in a motorcycle club over some murder up in Oregon. He didn't even know anything about it. He got coached by the feds, wouldn't testify. Like the guy he said gave him this information, he had no contact with the guy ever. That guy was on the main line. He was in the adjustment center, which we call animal control. They have absolutely no fucking contact with the main line. And I was on the main line with this dude. You never heard him talk about this case once. And I was partying with that guy, doing everything with that guy. I didn't know about it. So, I mean, he's not just a fucking snitch. He's a rat piece of shit that fabricated stories against people for, to gain favor from law enforcement. Just like all the rest of these fucks, So he had 2 murders. He was involved with prison gang. He was preying on people, using his status as a fucking prison gang member to extort people, have people killed, all of their bullshit. Now he acts like he's a big upstanding motherfucker. Fuck that, He calls preying on motherfuckers, So they locked all the prison gang members up in the shoe for over 30 years. And so that made the white population on the main line pretty thin. All the dudes that were with the business were in the shoe, except for guys that kind of got out of the mix and, were never got in the mix or whatever. So we were out on the main line having to fucking deal with, riots, blacks or Southsiders jumping on white dudes. I was in fucking riots 120 to 11,
Damn.
We were so thin, I mean, it would just, so to me, that's, the guys who were left out on the main line that had to be in them riots and be in all that shit when all the white dudes are thin, they're a lot more stand up than that piece of shit ever was.